business partner of mine long ago, for some reason, got into the habit of asking people when he would complete a sentence, does that make sense? How does that make you feel when I ask you like that?
Makes me feel like you're talking down to me.
Makes you feel dumb?
Yeah.
Right? If I explain a concept and then go, does that make sense? How does that tone feel?
That feels better.
A little bit more affirmative.
Yeah, and you're also you're just clarifying, like, hey,
Right.
does that make sense?
Right.
Versus
big difference.
Huge difference.
In tone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a reason why drum fills go down. It's almost like you end a sentence and you come to a period. When everything's come doom, doom, doom. And if there are some drum fills that, creative, like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation, that go up. That make you go, whoa, where are you going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no certainty. There's no foundation there.
Right.
There's no a firm place to land.
Absolutely.
Right?
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
So, did you ever think that you would get out of Target? You started out, you were kind of like a big deal there, weren't you?
I would say I was like a medium deal.
A medium deal? Only a medium deal?
Only a medium. I was a pretty big deal in Victoria's Secret world, but in Target, I was getting my way up to the medium deal.
Right.
Yeah. So
what came first?
Victoria's Secret. That was like my very first like adult job, period, outside of high school.
In so many ways.
In so many ways. But yeah, that was my very first job, and I very much worked my way up the ladder there for over a decade. And
that's got to be like my wife being a massage therapist, right? She's got so many stories behind the scenes that people only wonder about that are actually true.
Correct.
Yep. The stories that you come away from working at Victoria's Secrets, I could only imagine. What's like something that comes to mind that is just really profound and, maybe, I don't know, creepy or just odd.
Super odd.
Did it happen a lot?
Oh, so many things happen a lot. You wouldn't imagine how many significant others think that they deserve to be inside of the fitting room while others are also inside of the fitting room and trying to go through a bra fitting or a measurement, etc. So yeah, that, and then as the brand developed over the years, you can imagine the just margin of increase to sell our product and what it costs to make it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Like, what's the percentage, if I can ask?
Oh, you're talking
300.
Oh, yeah. Very
really?
much so.
Because that stuff's not cheap.
No, yeah, exactly. Some of those items cost 5 to 8 cents to make, and then we were selling them for
5 to 8 cents to make.
Yeah, 5 to 8 cents to make.
Well, I guess it's not much.
Some of the better product, so like your lingerie, your bras cost more, but still, even you're talking like dollars to hundreds.
Oh wow.
Yes, yeah. So,
but then you got manufacturing costs, but you got marketing costs and operations, all the stores and stuff like that.
All the things, yeah.
But that brings that number of the cost up, but not to that extent.
I would say not to that extent.
But because of the power of the brand, you can charge what you can charge. That's the power of branding.
It really is. The brand awareness is huge for any type of business. Yeah. And so when you have that in marketing and you market it the right way, you either win or you lose. It's true. You either win or you lose. So
yeah, for those of you just tuning in, this is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. I am Jim McCarthy, your host, coming to you from the Christian Brothers Automotive of Spring Hill Studios, as well as the It'sYourShow.co studios, powered by Muletown Bikes down there on the square in Columbia. Go see my pal Vinny down there if you're itching to get, if you're kind of wanting a fun exercise to kind of get into and you look forward to it, even though it's been kind of hot lately, it's still a cool thing to do because you have the pedal assist on these bikes. It gives you the wind. So it kind of cools you off until you come to a stoplight. Then you got to sit there and bake for a few minutes. Then you're off again. It doesn't seem so hot. So I'm looking forward to the September and October rides big time on my event in A3 or whatever, Adventure 3, they call it. But it's a lot of fun having fun with those guys. Talking to Rebecca Jacobs today with eSpaces. Knew you from when we set up the Try That in the Small Town Studios in your Cool Springs location.
Yes.
And eventually got you to come on board with the Williamson County chapter of BNI. And we are here with us today. This is a long time coming. We've been trying to get you on for quite some time.
It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we've done it.
I know, because you're one of these people that's being pulled all over the place. You're constantly having to do a tour of the various locations that you have. You're bouncing all over the place because there's how many locations here in Middle Tennessee? 11?
We have 11 Middle Tennessee locations alone.
Wow.
Yes.
Were you aware of eSpaces back when it was? You said they're 13 years old, so they started in 2013.
No, sorry, 2010 is 2010.
So 16 years old. Mm-hmm. I became familiar with eSpaces back in 2016, 2017 when they were in Cool Springs at that Bricktops location off of McEwen.
Yes, sir.
And they had the top floor there. Very interesting concept, especially when I got really into the role and thinking of entrepreneurship. I'm like, wow, this is a great idea, But I would imagine it's like selling commercial real estate, but on a much smaller scale.
Very much, right? Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah. So getting back to your humble beginnings, 10 years with Victoria's Secret.
Yes.
And then you went to Target.
Well, there was a little. So I did retail throughout all of my 20s. I worked for Victoria's Secret. I was recruited to Charming Charlie, the accessory and clothing store for women that was organized by colors. And then I actually did run a spa for a little while. And then I went to Target. So, but I've always been very sales and customer service driven. So, what
kind of spa? Was it around here?
It was a new spa that opened up in Capitol View called Massage Luxe. They were franchise owned, and they opened up a location down here.
Yeah. My wife was a massage therapist 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
Does some damage on the body after a while.
Oh, well. Yeah. Yes, I can't imagine, especially going for hours upon hours. Yeah.
Should make you see dead relatives, man.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny how I danced around the eSpaces concept. You see a lot of these other concepts that were popping up like WeWork and those types of concepts and stuff like that. So it's definitely an idea that works because there was an onslaught, especially during the aughts, of entrepreneurs.
Correct.
I stepped out of radio in 2013, got into the car business for a few years, and got full-time into entrepreneurship in 2016. And then, I was listening to the Gary V's and all those guys. Did you see kind of like that ramp up over time? I mean, you've been with eSpaces 2-3 years right now, right?
2.5 years. Yes. Yeah. So I like to call it the evolution of eSpaces. Obviously, I did a lot of research before joining the company, and I've, been able to talk to the co-founders. I've been able to talk to investors, of course, John Pirtle and Tiffany DiPietro as well, who've been with the business for over a decade. So I was able to really ask a lot of questions and do my own research into the brand before joining. And I like to call it the evolution of eSpaces. eSpaces started out as an entrepreneur space. They wanted a professional space for entrepreneurs to come and be able to collaborate and have a community and build business and network. And then as it evolved over time, we realized that we wanted to make sure that we also could provide private offices for those entrepreneurs whose business continue to grow or just want to have a professional space to come in every day without that crazy overhead, without CAM, without traditional leasing. And so that's how eSpaces has just evolved over the years. And it's even evolved even more in the past 2 years where we provided C-suites in newer locations, meaning that we're providing suite layouts to a smaller scale in order for business to continue to grow. So if you have a team of, 5 to 10 people, we have space for you as well. And that means that your team can have their individual space, but also have a collaborative area to come and grow and intermingle and still have the ability to be in the same space together and not all over the building.
Well, initially to me, it seemed it was like for the entrepreneur that needed to get out of their garage, living room, extra bedroom, needed a separate space. I first got introduced to a concept of it when a buddy of mine, Doug Hanna, was doing a lot more voice work and audio work. and he was renting a space in Cool Springs, if I remember. I can't remember who it was or what the name of the company was. All they know is that we looked into a space there, and my gosh, they would not let go. They just kept on calling and email. It's like, dude, I understand follow-up, but holy crap. Dial it back. So he had like a small like closet. Yeah, we've got flyers in here. I don't know what kind of bugs those are. They're like flat bugs for some reason. And I was like, that's an interesting concept. But he was literally in like a closet. Yeah. I mean, I think it was like maybe a quarter the size of this room.
Right.
But it was interesting to me. I'm like, what do you pay a month for these? He's like, like $600 a month. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because that's, you're either your first foray into renting commercial space, you're probably looking at, $5-6 a month.
Right.
For a shoebox, 2,600 square foot, slice of a retail space, right?
Yes. Yep.
That solves that problem of that in between.
Absolutely.
Am I getting this right? Am I seeing the outside of the bottle?
You're definitely around the outside of the bottle. The whole idea, with our model is sometimes someone just needs 50 square feet. They just need an office with a closed door to sit and focus. And you're right. What it channeled was entrepreneurs to get them out of the noisy coffee shops, to get them out of noisy, the distractions of home life, and give them a professional space to come where they don't have to worry about paying for coffee. They don't have to worry about paying for snacks. And they have reliable Wi-Fi, and then they obviously have that amazing community around them to network and grow. However, we also have the offices. And so those individuals who, do want 50 square feet, but then there's also those individuals who want a space that's 260 square feet or 1,100 square feet of a square foot space as well for their team. So, yeah.
But you have a model all set up because you're basically at this point, when I, again, got introduced to you guys, you'd rent out an entire floor of a building and subdivide it. And then you take those offices and make them, there was a model to it. Yes. They got certain size, small, medium, and large, if you will. But now you're kind of getting into, well, hey, we'll knock down some walls if we need be and make the space even bigger.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you had to kind of adapt. But what started the whole thing? Did Mr. Pirtle, what was his vision and catalyst that sparked the idea for this? And why is it called eSpaces?
So it is called eSpaces because there were our co-founders, the Gibbs. They wanted a professional space for them. They had tried co-working in other areas, and it just was not professional. Everything was extra. You walked in and it was dark. It felt not modern. It felt like they were walking into something that was super still, and they wanted that to be evolved. And so they came up with this amazing concept where, you're correct, they went in and they rented out, anywhere from 7,000 square feet to 11,000 square feet in the beginning. And they just had availability for individuals to come in and co-work, and then meeting rooms to be able to step in and have those meetings. And then as eSpaces evolved, we started adding private offices because we also knew that entrepreneurs wanted private offices. They didn't need a big private office. They just needed a private office. They needed a space with a locked door so they could come in and they could get to work. It's very plug and play ready within the eSpaces model as well. And then we also had an all-inclusive model. So that's something that's also different, is everything was always included. We never wanted anybody to get more than one bill every month. We wanted
simplifying.
Very simplified, very elevated, very professional, but very simplified. And we wanted to make the most important thing, the most important task for our members, our entrepreneurs, is to plug and play ready. Work, let us help you grow your business and focus on that instead of having to focus about Wi-Fi bill, electric bill, water bill, coffee bill, meeting room bill, all those extra bills that you get when you don't rent at eSpaces.
So you've been, it's everybody was winning back in the aughts. It was such a good time to kind of get into business, and everyone thought they were a genius. Now, things are a little challenging. And it's funny to me, especially with the amount of people that are moving from out of the area to our area. We saw this kind of phenomenon in Vegas. We got there in 2001, and everybody would look at you and smile, and they were happy. By the time we were there for 4 years, it felt like Connecticut again. Like everybody just like looked at you and didn't smile and you felt like you were in danger. We're kind of getting there here in Middle Tennessee. I think it's mostly all the New Yorkers and Californians moving in, but hey, I'll just call a spade a spade. I think there's an attribution there, especially with we go in there and you try and smile at people, but everyone's just so they don't like. You have a common area where everybody can hang out and not look at each other, and it's a cool common area. I mean, am I seeing it wrong? Or do you see people doing a lot of mingling and networking and stuff like that?
I think it depends. For me, it depends on the time of day and the situation. I think one, it starts with our location managers. Mm-hmm. When you walk into any of our locations, you're going to see a location manager on site smiling, greeting you, knowing you by name, knowing your business, and just kind of setting that tone for the space. Mm-hmm. And then individually, in the cafe area, that's a great place for individuals to connect and to build a relationship together. And that's why we make them so open and bright, and we provide all of these amazing amenities for them to just kind of start that conversation, because they know once they get to their office, it's their space. Yeah. There's no solicitation, so they don't have to worry about that. But no, it depends. Each location is so different based on the members. And once again, being in sales and traveling as often as I do, I get to be in every location, almost every location every week. And I get to engage with the members, and I get to talk with members. And typically members will ask me, hey, is there anybody here that you think would be a great contact for this? Or, hey, I'm looking to do this networking. I'd love to do a happy hour for the entire space. What are your thoughts on this? So they're wanting to mingle, they're wanting to talk, and they're wanting to just build trust with one another and make it a community of networking as well. But then also know that when they go behind their closed door, that's their space. That's where they can get back to work.
So essentially, is there like a list of tenants that go out to the tenants? Like, hey, here's who you're mingling with, what kind of businesses that they're in. Obviously you have a note, so don't go knocking on their door or anything.
Right.
But, just kind of, if you run into them or something like that, is there a way to intermingle them, or at least allow them to email each other or anything like that?
There's a couple of different ways that we do have the community brought together. Obviously, our happy hours, we have a member-sponsored happy hour, usually monthly, where they can come out and they engage with each other and they can chat, and that business is highlighted. However, we also have logos on everyone's door. So as you're walking the space, you actually get to see the company name walking around. However, we also have our member portal. So if you go on our member portal, as long as your account or your profile is public, you can see everyone that's in the business there, as long as it's public for them. Right. Now, we won't go out and just name drop every member that's in our space, because we do want them to have their privacy, especially if they have a very private company. However, we are also open to ensuring that the community is
a community.
The community is a community, and they're able to network. So, once again, on their member portal, as long as it's public, you can go on there and you can detail everything out about who you are. And we've had so many members do it. We've had like life coaches, and we've had wealth advisors, and we've had lawyers go in, and they just like detail everything that they specialize in or who they are, and they just make it public. And you can just go on there as another member and just kind of see who else is in the building that's networking. As long as they put their information public, that's your free range to get their contact information if they want to, and email them.
Now, what's the biggest differentiator? Because, with this concept, especially that they started in 2010, competition came hard and fast. Like a lot of people were like me going, oh, that's a great idea, but they had more resources to go and do their own thing. What does that look like? What are other competitors doing, or are you guys kind of leading the charge and innovating in how this looks?
Number one, locally owned and operated. We were one of the first shared office space in Middle Tennessee. So we are locally owned, we are locally operated. What you see is what you get. You get direct access to myself. You get direct access to our executive team. Another thing that's a differentiator is our location managers are able to make decisions. So when you call, we don't hide behind our pricing. We are very upfront, and we're an all-inclusive model. So that's what we pride ourselves on, is the one bill every single month, or the one like one person to talk to. You don't have to go through all of these escalations to get an answer to anything. The third thing I would say is we do drive community. You know, we want individuals to have their private space and privacy, but we also want to drive a community and make sure that we're building on that community. And we think that's important because that's going to help us in the long term as we grow into locations. And that's going to also help our members grow into their business as well.
I am Vinny Tavares. I'm the owner of Milltown Bikes, right in the heart of Columbia, Tennessee, on the square. And we're here to serve the community. We have bicycles from kids to adults, e-bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes. We run a repair shop. So I am the third generation of this current bike shop. It's been here since the 70s. It's a historical building. It's an integral part of the downtown community in Columbia. We get customers here coming in and talking that they got their very first bike here. So the reception has been great. Everybody's been super friendly, super welcoming. A lot of the old customers that been coming here for generations now still come here. They're now my customers, and I have a huge responsibility to continue to carry that legacy and that passion forward.
6 words or less, how would you actually, do you guys have like a Dave Ramsey-esque type of way to elevator pitch what you do? Because I mean, as we're talking, I'm just kind of like little thoughts are marinating and circulating my brain. Especially it's like, hey, all the things that you would need in an office under one bill kind of thing.
Right.
You know? Because a lot of those little micro expenses, snacks and, you know, coffee, all that stuff adds up. You know, common areas for employees.
Right. If you're going to really force me into 6 words or less, professional shared office space with all-inclusive amenities. That was way more than 6 words, but
no, but you
I feel
get
like
the
that,
gist.
yeah, that's like that. That's it. Another thing is we are redefining co-working. So we're exceptional office space for every business. That's just who we are.
Yeah, the co-working concept has always been, it's fascinating, you know. You just got to hope that people still have the entrepreneurial bug and spirit. But I mean, I guess that's why you're kind of adapting and including other companies that have even, you know, bigger companies that need satellite offices.
Exactly.
Right? Is that kind of a thing here with all the companies that are coming here? Do they need, you know, even though a Shurion or Amazon, they're building their own facilities, do they need something like what you guys offer? Is there something that you guys can do for them?
Absolutely. And then that's where that model of private suites came into play is we realized that teams were growing. We realized that we were getting more corporate hubs needing a satellite space. So, you know, out of New York, out of Atlanta, out of California, out of Dallas, they needed a smaller space to get that rolling in the Nashville market. What better way than to reach out to a locally owned and operated shared office space to get their footing in the door. We're also great for temporary space. We have a lot of great partnerships with local commercial real estate brokers. So as they get clients who are coming in and they're wanting to do an entire build out, and that's going to take anywhere from 8 months to a year, they will reach out to us for temporary space, but they still need a larger space. So they still need, you know, 500, 600, 700 square feet versus just 100 square foot office.
Are there anybody in the social media space that are your customers, clients looking to expand? Like, hey, I need a place to record video and podcast. I know we have a podcast in the Music City or Music Row. The old man brain. That location, we actually did an episode there.
Yes.
And you're kind of building that out. How is that going? Is that something that's in demand or is it still evolving?
For me, based on experience and conversations, still evolving. We know it's in demand. We know that individuals who aren't partnered with a recording studio already need that space. And podcasting in general is super huge. And a lot of the times they want to be able to have an affordable space to go in, film those podcasts or record those podcasts. And so as we evolve and as we continue to build that specific podcast studio out the way it needs to be, we are going to continue we want to continue to push that. So we're going to have people rent it. We have people who rent that out by the hour every week, but we do know that we need to evolve it a little bit more to make it a true podcast studio.
Right. We've talked about that in the past.
Exactly.
And I, would love to continue the conversation. I think there's, especially in all your locations, you need probably a podcast studio in every single one. I would think
that would be amazing. That'd be something that I think as eSpaces continues to evolve, we will look into. We are looking to add that into one of our Atlanta locations that we're opening. So we'll have a podcast studio in that market as well.
Oh man, we need to discuss a it'syourshow.co partnership of sorts.
There you go, exactly.
Where we help and facilitate, because you got to have somebody in there full time that knows what they're doing.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's another great way, like the great partnership that we have already is, I know when people do reach out and will reach out, I know I can push them off and say, hey, I know we don't have it truly set up the way it needs to be. We don't have a producer on hand. However, I know a great partner who can come in and help produce that for you and edit it for you as well.
We totally can. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey, yeah, I'm going to plug my own business on here. Of course. That's what we do. Where's the company going to be in like 5 years, 10 years? And what do you see yourself being in the company? Where do you want to go with it?
Ooh. So company in 5 years, I'd love to see us continue to expand in Atlanta market. I'd also love to see us expand into other markets in general, because bringing eSpaces to specific communities is what those communities need. I think every community needs an eSpaces because of our model and what we have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
We are your go-to for shared office space.
It's amazing to me that, though, because you open up the Cool Springs location and you have a Franklin location, you have a Brentwood location within, close vicinity of each other. You opened that one. We built the studio out. I mean, if you ever go to the Cool Springs location of eSpaces, you instead of going into the kitchen, you go the other way, and then right around the bend is our studio. And it's decked out. I mean, you guys let us have carte blanche and decorate it how we want in order to get the look of the studio and feel that we wanted.
Correct.
It was quite empty. I mean, you only had about 25% of that place rented out when you opened. Is that correct?
When we opened, yes, we had
in Cool Springs.
Yeah, and now we're at 93%.
Yeah. You got that filled up fast. Is that just all you?
Oh, no. That is not just on me. That is the eSpaces evolution. The layout of that space is amazing. Our director, or now COO, did fantastic with building that space out, partnering with John and making that space what it needed to be, because we didn't want it to be just like our downtown Franklin locations, because we have 2 down there. Mm-hmm. So when you have
2 locations down there, really?
We do. We have 2 locations in downtown Franklin that are 2 blocks from each other.
You guys are like becoming synonymous with a bank, almost like banks have their names up on freaking sports stadiums and buildings downtown. It's like you go by your name's up on top of that building.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's not cheap.
No. And when that's branding, though,
totally.
At the end of the day, we want to make sure people understand, like, we're here and we're here to stay. Yeah. We're here to build. We're here to give the community what they need, because we're from those communities. We live in those communities, and that's what's important to us.
When you have these open houses or these the happy hours, are they open to other businesses outside of the eSpaces model, or just exclusively for eSpaces community?
It depends. There are times where when we do host parties, we'll open it to the surrounding area. Yeah, we'll open it to the surrounding areas, especially in that building or within that business district. Mm-hmm. But typically our happy hours are strictly for our members, and that's because we want them to know, like, hey, we're here. Yeah. We're here for you. We want to invest back into you guys as well, just like you have invested and trusted us to have your business within our space.
Well, the cool thing is that it's going to become... That area seems to be building up because it's a big crescent. They call it Crescent Center Drive. Yes. And the buildings there's like 4 buildings that are pretty much the same. Beautiful buildings. Yeah. And then in the center, they're building like, I would imagine other office spaces. I think there's a parking garage, but they're building out like a courtyard-esque type of attraction, restaurants, bars, things of that nature. They just, the doghouse just opened. Have you been to that yet?
I have not been to that one, to that specific one.
Yeah. Never been to one. We need to go there at some point. check it out.
Yeah, we'll just have to get everyone from eSpaces to go. No, but that is eSpaces. So we are very strategic on where we decide to put our locations and invest in those communities, because we do want the walkability for our members to be able to walk to lunch, to the gym, to other areas, happy hours, in order to engage in the community.
Every great podcast starts with an idea, but turning that idea into a professional show, that's where we come in. At it'syourshow.co, we specialize in the highest quality podcast production and short-form video content. Record your show in our fully equipped studio, or if you need us to come to you, we'll bring the studio experience wherever you are. We could even help you build your own. With it'syourshow.co, you're working with an award-winning team who's been creating content pretty much since 1997. So whether you're a business, creator, entrepreneur, or storyteller, we make the production process simple so you can focus on what matters most, your show. Take advantage of our summer special and lay out your messaging starting at only $97 an hour. It's your show with our expertise.
Hi, I'm Jason Miller. I'm the owner of Christian Brothers Automotive here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. We fix cars here, both European and domestic, from simple oil changes to complete engine rebuilds and replacements. Most important thing, though, is while you're waiting, we've got the best snack game in town, and we invite you to make yourself at home and get to know us, and we treat you like family. We're located right across the street from Walmart on Highway 31 right here in Spring Hill. Let us know that you heard about us on this ad, and we'll give you 10% off your next oil change. So stop on in and see us in downtown Spring Hill. Do we even have a downtown in Spring Hill?
So you've been marketing a lot of different businesses. That primarily is what you've been doing since Victoria's Secret, Target, and Spa Days, correct? Biz dev marketing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I've always had a hand in marketing in my retail experience as well. I mean, it's just what I'm used to. So business acumen, marketing, customer service, and sales. What
is your like any marketing background philosophies that you?
Well,
the reason why I ask is because I used to study it, and as soon as I found out like the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Reese and Trout, I read that book cover to cover, and it was just fascinating to me.
So the one thing about retail, especially working big box retailers like Victoria's Secret and Target, they tell you what to do for marketing, and you just have to make sure it looks good. You have your own creative ideas. Like if something's not working for your specific store, you can make those decisions. But when it came to this specific role, I had a great partner in Tiffany because she was doing it before I came in. And I just did a lot of research. I really wasn't sure, total transparency, what my role was really going to look like. When I joined the company, I was actually running downtown Franklin. Right. Like that was what my job was supposed to be, was to run the downtown Franklin market. And within about 3 weeks, I was approached by John and Tiffany, and we're like, we want you to do this because we know you can. Right. And, I took that on, and I had no idea what it was going to look like. They hadn't had the role before. They didn't know what it was going to look like. So it did take us about a year to really uncover what we wanted to do with the role. And the biggest idea and task was brand awareness. So when it came to marketing, yes, we have our Google, we have Google ads, we have Google campaigns, we have our social media, but really it became brand awareness and building great relationships within the communities, not only from a broker standpoint, but also just in the communities with the small businesses and the entrepreneurs. So going to networking opportunities, joining network, BNIs, yeah, joining chambers, like doing and getting ourselves involved, because that's another thing is we pride ourselves in giving back to our communities. We support local high schools, middle schools. We have supported so many chamber opportunities.
Because you can host them there.
Exactly.
And it's such a brilliant strategy. I mean, you've got the space, you might as well use it.
Exactly.
And of course, all the members that are subscribing can be a part of that.
Yes.
If they so chose.
Yes.
And now you got the doghouse across the street to get catering from.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. When you initially started, and I mean, from what it sounds, because Pirtle's been a part of it, when you came on board, he was about 13 years in. And a lot of people talk about the 5, 10-year, 15-year overnight success. I'd love to know his story about, what those early years looked like. Why didn't the one at McEwen, well, all of a sudden they were there, then they weren't, what happened? And what adjustments did you make? Do you know any of those types of stories or how the brand evolved? Because honestly, when we first heard about it, I thought it was a national brand, which kudos to him. I had no idea that it was born out of Nashville, Middle Tennessee, because it has a national, well-established branding appeal.
Right.
You know, eSpaces is not a local yokel name, you know, and it doesn't have the cult side attached to it. Like, have you seen that documentary? That was it WeWork or something like that? Or
I have not seen it, but I can't imagine.
Have you? You do know about it?
I haven't. I'll have to look into it now.
Yeah, there's. I believe it's WeWork, that similar concept, but the guy like became a cult of personality, and it became like a weird cult.
Oh, yeah.
I think it might. I don't know. Maybe let's see. I'll look it up.
Don't worry, everyone. eSpaces is not a cult.
I know that.
And not a cult at all.
That's not where I was going with this.
Well, I'm not going to put words at, that's a great question for John himself as he's evolved the company over the years. But what I can say, and that I know of, is when we originally go into lease terms, there's a lot of effort. There's a lot of conversations that are put into it. And sometimes they just don't work out for us. However, just like at McEwen, before we closed McEwen down, we actually opened a second location in downtown Franklin. So that's how we got the second location in downtown Franklin. And we always knew we wanted to go back into Cool Springs and be on that side of it. But we always say the address has to be right. The area has to be right. The lease has to be right because there's so many changes and there's so many expectations that we have for ourselves at eSpaces when we go into a location that we want to make sure we bring to the community.
Well, there was the eSpaces location there was a lot more cushy. So they had couches and lounge areas. I'm not sure how effective of a use that was for the floor space, but this is a lot more on the surface, well put together.
Right.
Right.
We've always had a professional level to us, but as eSpaces evolved, we've become even more professional for not just entrepreneurs, but business owners as well. For smaller businesses, we cater to wealth advisors, we cater to lawyers, insurance agencies, therapists, chiropractors. We cater to so many different industries, and we wanted to make sure that our model, that when people searched our model, when leads, prospects came through, that we were a model for every industry, not just one niche. Because if we're a niche-driven industry, then we wouldn't have been able to grow the way we have, the way that, John and Tiffany have grown the business over the years.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up here. Adam Newman was the guy, co-founder of WeWork. Apparently made it into some sort of a cult. It got weird.
Yeah. As we say in Tennessee, bless him.
Yeah. They were out of, I want to say California. So that explains a lot. They had exponential growth. Their community, I think, was mainly the crux of the cult of personality centered cult, if you will. It's interesting. And I remember watching the documentary. It might have been Netflix, but if you look it up,
I'll have to go look at it now,
just to kind of get competitive edge.
Right. Yeah. I'm just curious now.
Yeah.
Now I'm just curious.
You had no idea.
I had no idea. I mean, I knew WeWork, but I had no idea about a documentary.
Well, John Pirtle doesn't make me think of like a guy. He has no interest in he barely wants to be like the face of the company. He just wants to be the guy, the wizard behind the curtain. Right. Good for him. The reason what I was getting to before was understanding the story of how they kind of came about in those first 13 years before you came on board. You're now, I guess, the person that is going to allow him to work on his business rather than in it.
That's the whole goal, is to let him continue to give us a vision of expanding and growing.
And I would imagine that's like every guru coach's advice to business owners. You got to work on your business, not in it. It's like, that's all well. How many times I've freaking heard that and I want to throat punch people because, I get that. But do realize that, most business owners, in order to build something of worth where they can unplug and it runs itself,
right?
That shit takes time.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And here he is. He's the 16 years in. He's finally able to do that. This is how long it takes, guys. Nobody ever talks about that. You can't do that in a year or 5 years.
Well, and complete honesty, I mean, they were doing great. And I think that's the reason the growth they had in those first 13 years before I joined the company gave me the ability to step in this role and to continue to help it grow. So, the work they did, the expertise, the growth pains, and the growth rewards got them the ability to be able to expand into this role. And my job as the sales and marketing director is to continue to help them so that we can continue to grow as eSpaces and give back to those communities.
What is the any growth pains that come to mind that you can think of? Because I love talking about them. Everybody who listens, there are a lot of business owners that listen to this podcast because we bring up the good, bad, and the ugly, the warts and all, and I really try not to make it feel like they're alone. Right. So if they know somebody who's put their time in, I want to know some of the lumps they've taken. Right.
I would say two things, if we could go back 10 years, 15 years ago and relook at the locations we'd into, I'm sure there's more questions we would ask. There would be more deep dives into lease terms or agreements that we would have looked into and maybe not made some of the decisions we made to go in specific markets. But I do believe that the markets that we are in, we give a lot to that community and we get a lot out of that community. So that's always a win for me. And I would say the second thing is, for me specifically in my role, is when we do go into a market and open a location, trying to find that balance of how much do I focus on this specific location that hasn't opened yet and is going to be driving business into this market versus how much, focus do I put on the other 15 to 16 locations that are open and still need me. Yeah. So that's a huge growth pain for me specifically within my role for sales and marketing is, that balance of trying to figure out what to do in those specific markets to help us grow and get our brand awareness, especially when it's a new market.
Well, what is the plan to duplicate Rebecca? Is there any in place or formulated, or do we need to talk about that?
No, I say the plan. I would love to, obviously have someone else in sales. I mean, obviously I already have all the location managers. They do great, but they're also running their location. So they also already have responsibilities outside of just sales. I could not do my job without them because I cannot be in 15, 16 locations at once. But I would say, obviously goals for myself within the next 6 months to a year is to continue to grow revenue in each location so that when I say, hey, I need help and this is where I need it, John's like, great. You know what? You've done it. You've built this. You've built this. You built this. Let's get you a person. Here's what we can do.
They're going to make you a partner at some point, you think? Or,
I love eSpaces. I want to.
You're really good at it. I mean, let me tell you something. Is that, and for those of you listening that are Rebecca's bosses, John and everybody, she's like Captain eSpaces. I mean, everybody. I there's like you ever like align somebody with a thing, like it's a personal brand essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the BNI is amazing for that. We know that Ryan Reed is the security guy. We know that I'm the podcast guy, so on and so forth. You're Mrs. eSpaces. I mean, you really do own it. I mean, that's a good thing.
I appreciate that because at the end of the day, my ultimate goal is...
Or would it be Miss eSpaces?
It's Miss eSpaces.
Miss eSpaces, yeah.
But my ultimate goal at the end of the day is to bring brand awareness around eSpaces, So when I am out in the communities, when I am doing networking or when I'm introducing myself via email to anyone, I just want to make sure to bring a great light about eSpaces and introduce eSpaces. But ultimately, I also like to build trust first. So I want to get to know the person. I want the person to get to know me. And then I want to make sure that when I do engage with them in a conversation on eSpaces, they've already built a great trust with me. So they know eSpaces. They can trust as well.
Well, I mean, a lot of that is, meet somebody at a networking event. Well, what is it that you do? Well, I've heard different approaches, well, tell them what you believe and tell them this and blah, blah, blah. If you can identify the tip of the spear in a very simple layman's terms approach, that is probably the best way to really introduce yourself. Hey, what's the biggest problem you solve? And my question to you is, what does the initial tenants look like? What's the majority of them? Are they kind of entrepreneurs trying to get out of the house, out of the coffee shop still? Or is that a big majority of them?
So that was a majority of who eSpaces was. But now we do have more of the wealth advisors, the financial advisors, insurance brokers. We have lawyers. So like I said, our industry and our niche has evolved over the years, because if we continue to focus just on entrepreneurs, then we weren't going to continue to be successful. We had to make sure that we had a open niche industry driven market. We had to be able to deliver that in our newer locations. And that is what the executive team has done over the years. They have been able to provide me with amazing floor plans and square footages so I can cater to those entrepreneurs, but I can also cater to a small insurance brokerage. I can cater to a Raymond James. I can cater to a therapist. I can cater to health industry. So I can cater to so many within our locations. And that's great for me to be able to do when I'm out networking and marketing eSpaces. Right. And when we're hiring and opening new locations, I can go in and I say, you know what? Yeah, I do have that space for you. You need 20, you need a space for 20 team members. Absolutely. I have the perfect setup for you. And if I don't, we'll make it the perfect setup for you.
So you wake up tomorrow with a $10 million marketing budget. What's the first thing you're going to do?
10 million?
10 million. I mean, that could last years.
That could last years. What I would ultimately, if I'm being honest, what I would do.
I'd like you to be honest.
Yeah,
Have you been lying to me this whole time?
No, I'm a very honest. I think you know that. I'm a very, almost too honest person. I would take a small because $10 million, and I would hire someone on my team.
Kind of like your assistant in a way.
I wouldn't say this. I would say a counterpart, just like a manager role who can help with the boots on the ground, daily marketing and sales. So I think that is what, with $10 million, I would hire somebody to be on the sales team.
Well, what is the 1,000-foot level versus the 10,000-foot level of your life and your job?
I don't even know what that means.
Like, the clouds and the dirt. If you had to look at the dirt in terms of what are you doing every day that's in the nitty gritty, and then what's the overarching desire that you want to do?
I would say like the day to day. I just enjoy.
That's a good way. Day to day.
Yeah, I enjoy doing what I do day to day.
I'm not saying you don't, but I mean, eventually, you can't go running around and doing tours in Atlanta and then come back to Nashville and do a tour.
That.
Well, you love doing it, but I mean, you gotta.
Yeah. I would say
eSpaces private jet, that brings you to
there we go. That's my 10 million. I'd do that. 10 million, buy a private jet. I would say kind of the nitty gritty day to day of what I'm at right now. Eliminate how much I am in locations, because when I'm in locations, I'm not out there building brand awareness. I'm not out there making great new relationships and meeting new individuals and new business owners. So that would be the one thing I would say if I could kind of eliminate today. And not that I'm expected to be in locations. I don't want that to come off wrong. But what I am saying is I enjoy being in locations too, in order to continue building the relationships that I've already cultivate those, love on those. But high level to the sky, out in the communities every single day, building relationships, meeting with brokers, meeting with business owners, going to networking lessons, networking events in the evening, going to BNI groups or connect or et cetera. That's what I would love to do.
Sounds exhausting.
It does, but I'm not an office girly. Like I cannot sit, and that's why I did retail for so many years, and the spa just didn't work out for me because felt like I was stuck in four walls, and I didn't get to I wasn't free to be able to do my job the way that it was expected of me. And I felt like I was confined. So like this role that I'm in is amazing because no day is the same, and I love that. Well,
you have, you guys you're branching out to Atlanta, which makes me ask why. Why not, Chattanooga, Knoxville first?
Well, we're already in Chattanooga, Knoxville.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been at Chattanooga was our third location we opened.
Okay.
So that's been around for 9-ish, 10 years.
Okay.
And then Knoxville was not too far after. Atlanta was a market that we'd always been interested in. When I say we, eSpaces, because I've only been with us for 2.5 years. But we had always talked about Atlanta. But in Atlanta, it needed to be the right area. We didn't want to be in the heart of Atlanta and downtown. We wanted to be like in Middle Tennessee. We wanted to go into the suburban areas where you don't have to go all the way into Atlanta to have a professional place.
Well, that's right, because you don't have a Nashville location, do you?
We have we don't have anything in the heart of like city center. Yeah, exactly. We have Music Row, we have Midtown, but in city center, it just doesn't work for us.
Right.
That's not our model. That's not who our client and lead is. We want to be able to be near them, but the goal is, so you need an office and now you're having to drive all the way to Nashville. No, you just drive to downtown Franklin. Let's have a professional space for you to come. You work, you plug and play, and you're ready to go. And you focus on your business instead of driving 1.5, 2 hours every single day just to commute one way.
I did that.
I did that too.
Yeah.
I did that. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting concept too, is that, you're kind of outliers to major metropolitan areas. So in the Atlanta area, I guess you'd have, what's that? It's where the Mercedes-Benz dealers were. Something Head.
Oh, Buckhead area?
Buckhead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So our first location opened last year in Marietta. We're right outside of the Battery.
Right.
Right outside the Battery, within walking distance. And then the second location that is opening is in the Perimeter. So we're right outside of the King and Queen building. So if you're in Atlanta, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we're right off of Peachtree Dunwoody.
Well, I mean, Atlanta is definitely big city.
Yes, big city.
Chattanooga, not so much. So, I mean, you can get away with a downtown location.
Exactly. And we are.
Right?
Yeah. And we are. We're right on outside of the art district in downtown Chattanooga, right near the campus.
Is that like near the UTC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. So is that near the aquarium at all? Or those touristy areas?
We're not in the touristy area, so we're right on the outskirts of next to the hospital and the campus.
Okay.
So we're off of East 4th Street.
Because that's the thing, is that some of these places, and I know some of the competitors, one of them being like an all-inclusive kind of, has a lot of promise in the name kind of thing, but he's downtown Nashville. And it's like, no. But apparently they're coming to Cool Springs as well. Another place is the Entrepreneur Center, which is, it's just difficult to get to. And it's like every time you go down there, it's like you're being nickeled and dimed for parking and all that stuff. With eSpaces, you don't have that.
Yep. We're not a nickel and dime company.
Well, you can't control the parking unless you go, where you're going.
Right.
Hey, no charge for parking. There's a parking lot, everything, it's easy peasy. You can get up in there. Because that's what stops me from going to events downtown.
Absolutely. Well, and then though you have to walk.
Yeah.
You don't know if you can get into a parking space there. It's full. And then sometimes you don't even know where you're going because of the buildings and the size and the corners left and right.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's part of your differentiator, Because, I mean, it's a simple concept. It's all in one. It solves a myriad of problems.
Right.
That's what I was asking before, like, what's the tip of the spear conversation starter? I ask all people in B&I, hey, what's the concept, the tip of the spear concept that gets the most conversation started for your business?
Ooh.
What are people looking for? What problems are they trying to solve?
It's one of 3 problems typically. They are already in a shared office space or co-working and they're frustrated with their current setup.
What are some of the frustrations that they're having in other places?
I would say the biggest one I see is, my renewal's up and I've told them I'm one out and they're requiring me to do another year. They nickel and dime me for everything. They can never answer my questions. I've had questions about an invoice from 3 months ago and it still hasn't been taken care of. So those are pain points. So I would say that's our number one, is they're currently in a shared office space, flex office or co-working, and they're one out. They want something different. The third one would be, we're a startup. I now have the ability to get 4 walls, but I'm not ready for traditional leasing. I need something that's professional. I need something that's mine, but I don't want to do traditional leasing yet.
I can't do 7 years.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep. Can't do 7 years. I need flexibility because I don't know where my company is going to be in a year from now, 2 years from now. And the third one I would say is, I've outgrown my home office. I want to be more professional. I'm tired of having kids in the background. I'm tired of having the dryer in the background. I'm tired of going to coffee shops for meeting space. I need something professional. Yeah. So those are our top three. And then I would say the fourth one is, our broker partnerships when they reach out to us, helping their clients find the requirements and setup that they need.
Well, I mean, you solve a problem, especially in the hole in the market that was the price intermediary approach, so instead of like we talked about at the beginning, $5,000 to $7,000 to $8,000 a month for, a retail shoebox or maybe an office space that could run you even more, depending on the location. This is a much easier, more palatable approach that'll run you, $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great hole to fill.
Oh, 100%.
There's a lot of different businesses that would love that.
Right. And then they don't have to worry about overhead.
Right.
At the end of the day, once I go back to it, they're getting one bill, and that bill is not a water bill. It's not an electricity bill. It's not an HVAC bill. It is not a plumbing bill. It's none of those pain points that you get when you decide to go into your own traditional lease.
So literally when somebody comes in, all you're saying, hey, good, better, best, price, that's it.
Right.
There are no add-ons. Unless you want to do podcasting or something like that. Is there a way to even work that in where, hey, because they've got meeting rooms and stuff like that,
Yep.
that I guess come along with the rental. You just got to put your name on the schedule, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The easeability to book our meeting rooms is super easy. That's the only additional fee they see. And like you were saying, there's the ability to add in some kind of credit should that member need to book meeting rooms on a regular basis.
Right. They can add it to the price.
Exactly.
Okay.
All we want to do is help business owners out, and we don't want to be that person that has to nickel and dime them. And we always pride ourselves, and we're upfront with pricing. We will not hide anything from you. That is not who we are and what we want to put out in the community.
Well, I think there you go. There's it's like your office, one bill.
Exactly. Actually, I just did some content last week, and it was just a bunch of just wordings, and one of them was one bill.
Right.
Literally. End of story.
I honestly think that's probably your biggest tip of the spear conversation starter. Imagine, if somebody asks you, hey, what do you do? Well, actually, I market and develop eSpaces, which essentially helps business owners take care of all their real estate and location, dare I say, needs, and I hate that word, with just one bill.
Right.
Man, tell me more.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm always really good at like simplifying, decorporatizing.
Right.
The sky talk.
Right.
Okay. And simplifying the best way to describe what it is that you do.
Exactly.
I've had somebody sit there and spout off for 5 minutes what it is that they do. And I'm like, dude, this is what you do. Run with that. Okay.
Well, and the more you give, the more you overwhelm. And I've been preaching this to our location manager in Atlanta who helps me market down there, and she's been going to events. And she's always just simplify it. Make it super simple. That way they let them ask more questions, because then they're interested.
Right.
And then at that point, you're building a relationship with them, and they're going to want to learn more. I mean, they're probably going to book a tour. They're going to want to meet you again, talk with you again. And that's just that's even better. So leave them with something super simple. Hey, we're a shared office space.
See, even that's very corporate-y to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, because
and I'm not trying to challenge you.
No.
I'm just this is what I do.
No, I love it.
Know?
Well, because at the end of the day, we're not co-working.
Right.
So
but that's what it's defined co-working. I mean, I think that's
redefining co-working.
But that's the thing. It's a nebulous concept. Co-working, am I mingling with other people in the same space? I mean, there's a lot of spaces that do that, where you're in a common space, literally,
Right.
physically. There's no individual offices. I can grab a table, set up my laptop. I've got all the Wi-Fi. I pay a membership, and I've got access to all these things. But there are no walls. I don't have a space of my own.
Right.
This is, your office with community, one bill.
Maybe that's my new tagline.
Dude, 6 words right there.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Maybe that'll be
And
my
it's yours
pitch
because it's
tomorrow.
personalized. Where
Right.
try it. I mean, this is what I do, man. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
You
No, at the end of the day, keeping it simple and allowing people to ask more questions so that we can give them more answers is the ultimate win for me.
Mhm.
When I'm engaging with, especially with somebody new and they're asking me what I do, I try to make it just super simple. From as far as like, I help you find a space for your business.
Right. Well, but I think the one bill approach, that might be too crude. I think one price
One
might,
price, yeah.
might be a better wording to it. It's almost like your space, your community, one price.
One price.
There's one bill to pay.
Okay.
How do you include all the amenities and stuff like that in there? You could say your space with amenities,
Right.
your community, one price. That's it.
Yeah. Make it
That's
super simple.
Super simple, Even the big guys get that messed up. McDonald's, I'm loving it. They just pounded it into our heads. But it doesn't define what it is. Burger King, have it your way. That kind of succinctly defined. This is the marketing background of all this stuff.
Right.
What's worked and what hasn't. Yeah, I mean, if you could turn eSpaces into a verb, even better.
A verb.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's a good question.
It's a good concept.
Yeah, just one verb. What can
Yeah.
you turn it into?
Oh, let's just eSpace it. That's turning it into a verb. Make a
Space it.
Xerox of this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kleenex it's a noun, but it's also, I guess it's a noun, but it encompasses all things tissue paper, right?
Right.
But Kleenex is so just ubiquitous, even though you've got all other different brands. I mean, eSpaces has that opportunity where the eSpaces, it can own the category. I mean, that's the thing, is like identifying the category that you're in and then dominating and being the first, maybe second placeholder in that category. And I think your category is still early. It's still kind of figuring itself out. Like we just had the conversation about co-working. What is it? Is it, like a shared space? Is it individual offices? I don't know. There's something there.
Yeah.
That we could wordsmith the crap out
We
of
could
this.
wordsmith. Yeah, all the things out of it.
Yeah. So, getting into marketing, and what buzzword would you want to immediately eliminate in marketing if you could?
In general?
In general.
Oh. Buzzword in general.
Think about
Can
it.
it be a phrase?
Yeah, it could be a phrase.
The one phrase that I've never been able just to
It makes you want to punch a throat.
Yeah.
Punch a wall.
Nikes just do it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I just why? What are we just doing?
Well, that's kind of like the I'm loving it approach.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
I'm loving what?
What are we loving? The McRibbon? The McRib?
The food that if you leave it out for 3 years, it looks the same and, doesn't degrade.
That is one documentary I did watch when I haven't had McDonald's since then. Many moons ago.
We still have it. But, it's just once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I don't even want to tell you. I mean, it's been many, many years.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You just won't touch McDonald's?
Oh, I mean, a decade probably.
Dude, I'll be riding my bike and I take a route that brings me past a Waffle House and McDonald's. Oh my gosh. You smell that stuff. And it's like, ooh. You smell the
another
biscuits
place
and
I
the
have not
sausage.
had probably in a decade.
Waffle House?
Waffle House.
Dude, at least it's real food. It is. They got real eggs that are sitting up there. I mean, whether they're cage free or whatever, but they got real bread. It's white bread, but whatever. They're using butter on the grill.
Exactly. They're doing it though.
Right.
At least you get to see what's happening.
Exactly.
You get to see it all.
But that's a big thing. It's like going to a hibachi, and they take out that big chunk of butter and it just melts oh yeah.
Yeah, I do love a hibachi.
I think butter is actually good for you. So.
I'm not opposed to butter. I enjoy it. It makes things good.
Right.
You just have to have it in moderation.
You just need a little bit of cholesterol. If you could immediately master one new skill, what would it be? Being in 3 places at once.
I was going to say, being in 3 places. No. Master one skill. It sounds crazy, but I'd like to be more techie. Mm-hmm. Like I understand tech, but I would love to be able to understand like more of the coding and the backside of tech from a marketing standpoint for Google, for our website. I believe that would help me.
Mm-hmm. You really want to see eSpaces grow. I mean, I asked you the 5 to 10 year question earlier. Have you had a chance to kind of think that over and hone that in since we've brought it up? I mean, 5 to 10 years from now, you're 15, 13 years in to being employed, maybe a partner. John. She's the kind of person you make a partner if you're watching this. That's the kind of thing that you really kind of delve into and think about, okay, how many locations, how many markets? And the danger there is that you start losing control. So how do you keep the control?
Right.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. How many people are currently working for eSpaces? How big is your team?
We have 17 of us.
I know, that's nuts. Yeah, I guess for however many locations, right?
Right.
So under 20 at least.
Oh, yeah.
That's a small team.
Yeah, a small team, but it's always growing. And I believe that we put the right people in the right places. So, when it comes to hiring, when it comes to putting individuals, that location manager at that location, we put the right person there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's being like managing a baseball team.
Yeah.
So, you'd be surprised
small
how many.
But mighty. There you go. Small but mighty.
There you go. You'd be surprised at how many companies that I've been becoming aware of, big companies, grocery stores that start with P. How you get a glimpse of how they do things, and you sit there and you go, really? I can't argue with you because you're massively more successful, maybe due to time,
right? But
you're known for a certain quality of shopping experience. This seems to completely be the antithesis of all that. How does this? Why?
Right.
They'll take hey, things are going really good at this store. Let's pluck that manager out of there and switch things up a bit. What? Why? Why would you do that?
Well, that's retail in general.
That's
happened to me a lot. And when I worked in retail.
Why? It's going really good there. Let's screw it up. Is that somebody that's coming in from like a upper managerial level and like, I need to get my fingerprints on stuff. I'm just going to change things just for the sake of changing them.
So in retail, there's people that are called fixers. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they spend a year to 18 months in a location to fix it. And then once
Does it need to be fixed?
You only go there if it needs to be fixed.
But that's the thing, is that there are like this one store in particular, it's humming along. It's one of the most successful stores in the area. It doesn't need fixing. And they literally took...
That you can see.
Of course you can behind the scenes, but at the same time, it's like, having somebody on the inside feeding back to you and going, right. when you hear these things and they have these managers that are managers and they're minos, managers in name only, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have really no power. They're still getting paid hourly, which blows my mind. And it's like, it just makes me want to sit down with some of these people. Okay, why are you doing it this way? I'm really curious. It's not that I'm trying to pick on you. You obviously, the brand does really well.
Right.
Hey, you give somebody a pat on the back. Here's a $5 gift card. Really?
That's not
you guys can't afford like $50. I mean,
right.
How much would that hurt? If you put $1,500 a year into giving out a gift card of $100 every month, that would make a huge difference.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But
invest back into your team.
Here's a $5 gift card for a sandwich. What? I just sold. They literally, I think they had like a $17,000 day in one of the departments.
Oh, wow.
And understaffed. It was leading into the 4th of July. and I know I'm being vague about this for a reason, but they had a $17,000 day, and then they told we had one of our biggest days. I'm like, well, dude, freaking spread the damn wealth around.
Right.
Give us a bonus or something. Throw us a bone. We were completely overworked and understaffed.
Right.
We pulled it off. Hello.
Give
Nothing.
back. Yeah. Appreciation goes a long way.
Well, I mean, and they're not, it's not like they're devoid of that, but it to me, it's just so obvious.
That's the one thing about larger corporate. It's not always a store level decision.
That's what I mean, is that, in these situations where you've been, is it somebody that comes in at a higher managerial level that says, well, hey, I just need to get my fingerprints on stuff, mess things up a bit, not understand why they did what they were doing and what was successful and maybe a little bit challenging. All the places are going to have challenges.
Right.
Understandably. But when you pull, a general manager of the store that's been there since, she was there for, I guess, 8 or 9 years as a GM, but started at that store when she was 16.
Oh, wow.
And we just pluck her out. Why? No, just because. No, why?
Yeah. I need more answers.
Right.
I need more than 6 words.
Right.
Need more than 6 words right now.
Bradley once told me a long time ago, how to get rich?
Oh.
You ask one question. Why?
I read
You haven't asked me why.
Why? Why?
And it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how you can actually, because why encourages people to problem solve or solve problems, or at least find a problem to be solved if you can solve it.
Right.
And money changes hands when problems are solved.
I did for many years in retail. I read the book called Starting with Why every year.
Yeah,
right when
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, right when your fiscal year was going to end, I would just read that book, and it would help me just rechannel how I wanted to take on that following year, and what and how I wanted to approach every conversation, every situation, every meeting, every business and development, whatever the case may be. It really, truly helped me in so many ways evolve.
Yeah. You ever see the other book he wrote, Find Your Why?
Not.
Because he started with Start with Why.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people must have spoken up and said, that's great and all, but I don't know what my why is.
Yeah.
So need help there. And he's like,
Yeah.
okay, interesting. So he wrote a book called Find My Why.
I'll have to look at that one.
Find Your Why. And then Coach Michael Burt, I don't know if you know who he is locally here.
Mm-mm.
He's the one who runs the other, co-working office space downtown. He wrote a book called Screw Your Why. Which,
of course he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So, little plug for him. What is your why? Have you found it?
So, personally wise,
Anything that
Yeah.
comes to mind.
I would say for personal reasons, my why is because I personally want to continue to grow. I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to have a future to where I don't have to worry. Professionally, because I'm so invested in this company, in the growth of eSpaces, that I push myself to continue to evolve and to continue to build brand awareness. So professionally and personally, those are my whys.
Good wise.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But I put my all in everything that I do. So that's one of my kryptonites as well, though. You ask
Until one kryptonite replaces another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's in retail. You can ask any of the people who I've worked retail with. They will never tell you I was not fully invested in the role in the store, in the business.
Well, I also believe that we go through certain times and scenarios in life to teach us how to do things and how not to do things.
Exactly.
You are obviously a team leader, manager of sorts, right? You have
Right.
people that are taking direction from you.
Yes. And yeah.
And you've had that experience before.
Since 18.
Yeah. Like being a team leader.
Yeah. Since
Or
18.
being in a team that's being led.
Yeah. In general, since 18, I started my first managerial role at the age of 18.
What have you learned not to do?
What I've learned not to do is tell. I've
Tell
learned
on people?
No, just to tell in general. I've always learned to ask suggestively. So in my early years, I felt like I needed to just, boss it up.
Right.
And at the age of 18, you have people who are in their 20s and 30s reporting to you. And I learned very much so not to lead with fear and not to just tell without explaining the why.
How did you learn to lead from fear, though? Did somebody show you that?
Oh, yeah. That was a learned behavior. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I was very much led with fear every day of every work day. And I learned that for many, many years. And it followed me for the better half of, I would say, 5 to 7 years. And then I had a mentor who basically slapped me back down to my level and was like, listen, if you want to grow, if you want to go far, and if you want to make the money that you want to make, and you want to be the person and have the respect of not only your peers, but the people who report to you, you have got to start asking why. And that is when I read Starting with Why for the very first time. And I very much humbled myself in a lot of ways.
Well, there are managers who believe that it's a top down, well, you work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also, I believe, another Sinek book called Leaders Eat Last. Another good book.
Yep.
I haven't read it, but I know the concept.
Yeah.
And it's all about, just, and the Dream Motor Group, who owns Mercedes-Benz in Music City, Ferrari, and a bunch of other Mercedes dealerships in the Southeast. Their CEO is very big on, look, the titles in my name or the letters in my title rather doesn't mean chief executive officer. I believe it means culture enforcement officer.
Sure. There you go.
And he's very big, especially in the automotive sector, on healthy culture creation and sustaining healthy cultures, which is refreshing for that industry. That's where I came out of.
Yeah.
I've worked for people in radio. I've had managers in radio that were good and bad, either really good or really bad.
Right.
One that was kind of in between. And then getting into the car business, I started out with a manager who was amazing, guy who I worked with in radio, got me into the car business, and then he bounced. Oh. And the guy who replaced him was like okay. I told my wife, I said, Steve's leaving. Who's replacing him? Robert. Yeah, you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Just leave.
Yeah. So that perpetuated me to go to Mercedes. But again, it was one of those experiences that you saw the guy who was come with me.
Right.
Or let's go versus go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huge difference.
100%.
In my Vegas experience, I had a guy who brought us in. We were very community based. We hung out on the weekends, all of us as a team. And he bounced and went to Dallas. And the guy who replaced him, literally one of the first meetings, he told all of us, your job is to make me look good. I'm like, the hell it is. I said, buddy.
And that is when I exit stage
This
left.
is where I start putting my feelers out, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But those types of scenarios happen when people find themselves in those positions. This is why I would be the most insubordinate employee if I had to go back in the workforce, man. I would be like the stuff my wife tells me. They had somebody come into her work and was teaching a new manager. Granted, the manager's like 23. And they don't get paid well. That's the other thing that's mind-boggling. Like nobody knows how to negotiate for themselves anymore. It's really aggravating. But anyway, this woman who apparently goes around from store to store to store, teaches them how to, keep things moving and efficientize things, if you will. But she does it in a way like, now, why wouldn't we want to use that tool to clean this shelf? Why wouldn't we want to do that? I mean, dude, if I had somebody talking to me like that, I'd be like, why? Well, why don't we ask first? How do we think that this question is coming off right now? Do we think that's a little condescending? That means talk down to. Literally.
That's what they're taught, though. It's the ask first tell. So they always.
That's condescending.
Listen,
completely condescending.
That is the model that is retail. Unfortunately, it's how I was taught. It was the ask first tell model.
Is that so? That's a thing.
It's a thing.
And there is a possibility of that being effective, but I guess it comes across with the tone.
It is effective after you've gone through the training process, after you have hit 90 days. Then you start doing the ask first tell. It's after you get out of your onboarding process is when that is successful, or more successful is the ask first tell model.
Define that model. How does that work?
So the whole thought process is, instead of teaching them, letting them learn, et cetera, in that onboarding process, they start with just the ask instead. So instead of teaching and telling them how to do it within their first 60 to 90 days, they just want to test you in general. So they don't provide you with all that necessary information. It's supposed to make the leadership team not feel as, what's the word for it that I'm trying to, like,
There's an intrinsic way. I get what the purpose of it is.
right.
But it gets back to tone. Like, I remember there was a way, and this is coming from a voiceover artistry perspective.
Right.
There's what I call a passive tone and an affirmative tone. Business partner of mine long ago, for some reason, got into the habit of asking people when he would complete a sentence, does that make sense? How does that make you feel when I ask you like that?
Makes me feel like you're talking down to me.
Makes you feel dumb?
Yeah.
Right? If I explain a concept and then go, does that make sense? How does that tone feel?
That feels better.
A little bit more affirmative.
Yeah, and you're also you're just clarifying, like, hey,
Right.
does that make sense?
Right.
Versus
Big difference
huge difference.
in tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a reason why drum fills go down. It's almost like you end a sentence and you come to a period when everything's come doom, doom, doom. And if you know, there are some drum fills that, you know, creative, like, I can't believe I'm having this conversation, that go up, that make
Right.
you go, well, where are you going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no certainty. There's no foundation there.
Right.
There's no a firm place to land.
Absolutely.
Right? So I get that concept, and it's a good concept. But I think ultimately, like, well, why wouldn't we do that?
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to throw. Third time I'm going to throat punch somebody in this podcast.
There are other not things, but tone, body language. There are other behaviors that have to go into the ask first tell
Right.
teaching model.
But I think
Not just ask first tell.
and they need like a voiceover guy, you know, an actor to kind of teach the managers. Okay, don't say it that way.
Yeah.
No, you sound completely condescending.
Everything needs to be paid. Everything said with a giggly voice.
Not even just like, hey man, you know, hey, you see this shelf up here?
Right.
What do you think needs to be done?
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, it could be clean. Good. What else? Anything else you see? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's kind of like, even though it's a maybe not a rhetorical question, I'm just looking for you to figure out, because that doesn't put them so on the defensive, like, oh crap, I better get this right.
Yeah. Did I do something wrong?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It
Right.
just says, oh, okay, you're curious on my opinion.
Have you ever had to push back on a manager and assert yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me a story.
Oh, there's so many.
Not at eSpaces, of course.
No,
but,
yeah.
you
No,
know.
I know I speak very highly of eSpaces. I feel very respected in that. And there are times where constructive criticism is loved and always welcomed. And I'll never say anything constructive criticism. We need that as individuals, especially in different roles. However, in all of retail, there have been times where I've had to look back and push back on either policy, the way that the individual is talking to me, or talking in the group. You know, I've had a terrible experience in Victoria's Secret when I was in Knoxville, and the manager literally was just yelling and yelling and yelling, and it was our store manager at the time. And I just looked at her and I said, you know, yelling is not going to get you anywhere. Mm-hmm. We're also on the sales floor with a lot of customers. There are a lot of team members around. And it wasn't even directed towards me. It was directed to another team member. I was like, this conversation should have been done in the privacy of an office with a witness. Mm-hmm. The same thing happened to me in Nashville at Opry Mills, the Victoria's Secret. And that's actually the day I turned in my notice. I got asked how I felt that managers were quitting because of me. Mm-hmm. And I looked at my manager at the time and I was like, I'm not their direct report. And in their exit interview and their email and why they were quitting, my name was not mentioned. You know whose name was mentioned? Your name. Mm-hmm. So let's look in the mirror to see why. And I was like, and I'd be happy to have that conversation with you because this is the feedback that was given to her direct report with me as a witness.
See, that's where you can use the condescending tone.
Yeah. When she said that to me on the, I looked at her and I was like, on the sales floor, and I was like, here are my keys. You can take this as my 2 weeks notice. Also, I have about 70 hours of PTO. Go ahead and just put 2 weeks worth on my paycheck because I'm out.
Right. And what do they do then? Because those are delicious moments that,
she felt, I think in that moment, she realized like I can't talk to people like that. Like go up to them and ask them. And I'm giving her an update on the day. She had just come in. She was we had segments. So I was running 2-hour blocks. I was letting her know all the things that had happened, all the good things, all the things that we could have done better on. And like the first thing in your mouth is not, oh, great job, or, oh, okay, tell me how you coached to this. It was that. And I just looked at her and I was like, you know what? This is where I draw the line. It is a Saturday and I've clocked 80 hours this week. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I worked tons of hours in
Those retail. Are 11, 12-hour days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and every day. No days off. Wow. So I had, hit my wits end and I just walked in the office and I looked at my counterpart in sales and I was like, I'm done. And she looked at me, she's like, please don't. And I was like, no, I'm done. Yeah. We had more
you should come with me.
Yeah, and she did a couple weeks later, about a month later.
Oh yeah. Cause you plant the seed.
Yeah. It was very toxic. And that was when I had decided like, I just needed a break from retail in general. I just needed a break. Yeah. So
you did something more substantial.
I did. I went and ran a massage space
with even more skimpy outfits.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is that I left. They always say people don't leave companies; they leave managers.
People leave people.
Right.
Yeah. People leave people.
So, in my next foray in my automotive life, I was with Mercedes-Benz. Love the brand. Yeah. Love the customers. It was actually going from Honda to Mercedes, weirdly easier,
right,
and more lucrative. You just had to get in front of people, and they already knew what they wanted. They could afford it. There was no real pushback. It was just helping them along the track of buying a car.
Right.
But I had come into that place just after they changed the pay plan, where we got these spins that came down from the manufacturer. Okay. And typically at one point, all the spin money, which is like bonus money, hey, we've got a program on C classes and blah, blah, blah. Let's push these. And the more you sell, the more you're going to make, so on and so forth. I came in at the point where they had just recently split that spin money into, you good in time?
Yep.
Okay. Into half of going to management, the house, half going to the salesperson, where they used to go all to the salesperson. Ooh. So essentially the sales staff just got like a demotion. And I just came in under that model. So I was like, well, hey, it's better than where I was. This is great.
Yeah, you're like, this is awesome.
And that's kind of what they're counting on. But here's what happened. Learned the product, got really good at it, loved the brand, did all the training, world-class training. And then that winter, going into October, I had a killer month. And they decided to change something regarding bonuses that were attached to surveys. So I had one woman who came in and bought a car who roasted me on a survey that was, again, speaking from my end of things, undeserved. It was a special situation. We'll just leave it at that. And that affected my entire, I'm like, well, okay, if that spoils, I might lose $800. Big deal,
Right.
Well, they decided to retroactively attach it to spin money, and it was a big spin month leading into the end of the year. Here I was in a position to receive commission that was going to fulfill a dream that I had to take my family to Disney World. I wanted to take them in spring. We had never been in a position like this. So I'm like, well, hey, this money, we're going to be able to build on that. We're going.
Right.
Taking my kids to Disney World in the spring. Way too early to take kids to Disney World. My daughter was like 1. She would never have remembered it. But anyway, yeah, they decided to retroact. Oh, yeah, we just decided because your surveys weren't good. Now you're not getting your spend money. I said, excuse me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What did you say?
What happened?
What was that?
Not starting in January. This is based on a month. You're changing rowers in midstream? Really?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing? And I'm like, okay, if I don't speak up right now, I'm doing my family a disservice.
Yeah.
So I requested my manager's company. I said, listen, I need 10 minutes of your time. And I went in and I told them that, look, this isn't fair.
Right.
This is robbery. Money's still coming into the building. You're already getting half. From what I understand, this used to not happen either. Now you're getting the entire thing. It doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
Well, that's just, what we're able to do. I said, just because you're able to do it or you think that you're able to do it doesn't mean you should do it, buddy.
Right. Are you able to do it though?
Yeah. And essentially looking back on it, my first word should have been like, okay, should I get my attorney on the phone now or should I call him when we're done?
Yeah. Would you like to go ahead and talk to my attorney with me or should I just have him come and talk with you afterwards?
Yeah. But here's the thing is that when you have fear as a motivator, mostly fear about, I don't want to lose my job.
Right.
This is what I depend on. Most people are in that position, and that's why they don't fight back. They forget to at least start asking questions.
Correct.
They just take things at face value. Okay, well, wait, what about this? You mean to tell? So that's what I was kind of doing. And then all of a sudden, you saw people that were there for a decade or more leave. One person bounced, another person bounced. Was like, oh, really, you too?
Right.
And that day came where I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's not fun.
Well, when you have more than one person, okay, you can make excuses or you can make up scenarios of why. When you hit like 2 and 3 and people who have been with the company or the brand for X amount of years, that's when you have to, you have to start asking the questions of like, is this the right space for me?
Right.
Maybe not the right job, because the job, you could always go to another dealership. But is this the right space? This is the right company for me. And I had asked that question many times, but also to piggyback on it, I started advocating for myself and knowing my worth as an individual and what I can bring to the table. And I think that is just huge because talking about money in retail, especially in Victoria's Secret, was very tabooed. Like you could be threatened to be fired if you talked about it. And
to managers? Or
in
just
general,
amongst each other?
In general.
Really?
In general. You were not supposed to know what anybody else made, even if they were aligned with you.
Well, that's fair. But you're talking about compensation for yourself. You should have those conversations or be allowed to.
Exactly. And so it was just such a taboo moment. And like,
that's a big red flag.
Yeah, exactly. Like my experience, I've been with the company for 5 years. I've elevated, I've done this as an individual, but I never fought for what I felt like I deserved. I settled for the 50-cent raise,
right,
or the 75% raise,
because teach my kids this. I might annoy my wife with it. It's a sell or be sold world that we live in. You're either going to be sold. Hey, good job. Here's a $5 sandwich card.
Right.
Or ask the question, really? How much did we make you today? This is the best you can do. And that's confrontational. But, and this is like when my wife comes home and she tells me these things, I'm like, is anybody thinking about asking? And I know why they're not asking. Because they don't have the mindset. I need this job. I can't afford to lose it.
Exactly. They're afraid that if they did ask,
retribution.
Yeah, exactly.
And in this particular case, there wouldn't be, because like they tolerate bad people. That's another signal. I said, Courtney, you're in a unique situation. You don't need to be doing this. This is good for your mental health. It gets you out of the house. It's time to start doing something. You seem to enjoy it, then do it.
Right.
I said, but dude, the minute that it becomes like, I don't want to go in today, or you're starting to like, we get there and you're parked in your car and you're delaying going in, you don't need to be in that. There's no need to torture yourself.
Yeah.
I said,
5 more minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, but here's the thing that you're the position you're luckily able to, you could ask questions. You could push back.
Exactly.
You start asking questions that are business minded, especially when it comes to, balance sheets and stuff like that, top line revenue, bottom line revenue. And you start asking, I said, ask your manager what the run rate is per day in that department. I said, she'll probably be shocked that you're asking that.
Yeah.
Nobody would ask her that.
Right.
You know, well, how much does it cost to run this place? Every day.
What is the expected amount of team members who are supposed to be on in this hourly time frame?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is that they have understaffing problems. Mm-hmm. She was told at one point, well, hey, you know, we got some underperforming employees here. What are we doing about it? And the manager told her, well, it's actually up to you guys to kind of keep them in line. I'm like, what? She actually said that to you? She's like, yeah, you know, I said, dude, this is why I would be fired. Because my initial comeback is like, oh, so I'm expected to do part of what your job is. Yeah. You know, I honestly charge $4 an hour extra for that. So you want me to basically keep my managers, my cohorts and my colleagues here in line?
Oh my goodness.
When they're the weak link? Really? Well, yeah. Okay. That costs you $4 extra an hour.
Right.
If I'm going to be doing your job, then I'm going to be paid for it.
Yeah. Expecting to keep your peer in line. Yeah. Right. There's motivating a peer.
This isn't the military.
Yeah. There's motivating a peer. There's motivating peer to peer, but having to coach. I mean, peer to peer coaching is a normal thing in retail in general, in industry in general, you know, but at the end of the day, you're not there to hold them accountable. There's a direct report that holds them accountable.
Right. And it's like, well, the accountability is shared amongst you. No, that doesn't work that way.
Not today.
Not without, I didn't come to work to babysit my coworkers. Right. I came to do my job, make my paycheck, get myself out of the house, get in front. And the funny thing is that you've met my wife. She is amazing on the front line.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be surprised at this place. How many people that behind that counter are just like, they say things just completely sideways to a customer. And, you know, my wife's going, you know, that kind of a look like, did you just freaking.
The side eye.
Yeah.
What happened?
And it's like, you're sitting on the outside and this is so obvious, guys. Why does it have to be this way? Why? We're better than this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're all human. Come on now. Please.
Well, how people find and follow you? We'll wrap this up.
Yeah, you know, find and follow. We're on all social media platforms. eSpaces Official. We're on eSpaces.com. So that's ESPACS.com. They can also give us a phone call. I have a direct line. It's 615-777-8567. Or if you're out in the community, you can just come and talk to me. Yeah. I'm a very approachable person. You guys publish when you have open houses on a regular basis on your Facebook or anything like that? Absolutely. Anytime we have any type of open house, anytime we're running any type of promotion, we are always on social media, always promoting all the locations, location specific, market specific, etc. Nice. Yep. Very cool. Well, there you go. All the things are right there, and they'll all be in the description as well. If you want to learn more about us or you've got some sort of value out of this episode, please share it out to your social media channels. As always, mmtbp.com is the website that'll take you there. It's a link tree, so we do what we can here. So this is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. Rebecca Jacobs, thanks for coming on. Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Loved every minute of it. Cool.